Waiting.
Okay. Good morning, tribe. This is Keith and Michelle Norris from PaleoFX coming to you live, and we are really excited to share someone with you today that has become a very important person in our lives and who has a lot of really great information for you. First, we want to talk to you a little bit about, so today we're going to talk about IDLife and specifically our company that we formed in IDLife, IDLife Wellness. Which a lot of you that have been to PaleoFX are familiar with and have probably got questions, wonder what it is, all of those things. So we just wanted to kind of tell you why we chose to become part of this relationship marketing company. And so you want to kind of start off and tell them one of the reasons why we got involved?
Yeah, so we've been involved, what's it been, 6 years now?
Yeah.
Wow. Time flies. 6 years. And the reason that we got involved, excuse me, was because the core values of IDLife aligned perfectly with the core values of PaleoFX. And we had been looking high and low for someone to partner with, and we could not find that company. In fact, we got very, very jaded over the years. And when we were approached with the idea of IDLife, we were, how can I say, negative Nellies going in. We were like, yeah, right. Okay, whatever. This is just another company, another whatever. But because we were introduced to it by a very, very dear friend of ours, Jennifer Moran, we were like, well, okay, she's a great friend. We'll hear her out and we'll see about this.
Well, actually, let's be in all fair. Actually, when we thought that we were going to talk her out of this, is what we thought we were going to do.
Yeah, we were going to go and save a soul and talk her out of it. And in fact, when we saw what IDLife was about, when we saw what they offered, when we saw the quality of the ingredients, when we saw all of it, the front office, the commitment to quality, everything, we were like, well, we're in. Yeah. I mean, we have no argument against this. And we're in this game to help people. And if we are truly in this game to help people, then we have to do this. Right. We have to spread this work.
Right. And a lot of people come to us too and say, well, but you're paleo. If you eat paleo and you eat clean, you don't need any kind of supplementation. And we actually believed that ourselves. A number of years ago, about 8 years ago, we were in that same mindset. And Keith actually set out to prove that you didn't need supplementation and actually proved that you do. And so, So the thing is that we constantly question our own dogma and we actually put it to the test. And so when we came to that conclusion, it was actually before we ever even were introduced to IDLife. He actually proved this before we got introduced to IDLife. And then when IDLife came along and we saw how meticulous they are in the science behind everything that they do, we were like, okay, this is the company that we align with. This is our values. This is exactly what we do. So thank you so much, Mark, for coming on. We really, really appreciate you being here. And we'd love to have everybody learn just a little bit about you, what you have done in your past, a little bit about your transformation story and why you chose IDLife.
Well, it's thank you for having me first and foremost. That's it's really an honor of mine to be here. When I get to see what you guys do at PaleoFX, most importantly with the people that are on stage. When you ask me to do this, I'm kind of like, not sure I'm qualified, but I'm happy to jump on and see if I can help. My story's a little bit different. I was a college athlete, as I say. I was 8% body fat with 400-pound eating habits. 10 years later, I was a lawyer sitting behind my desk at 307 pounds on my way to 400. Because the only thing that had changed was I was no longer getting up at 5 a.m. every day with a coach yelling and screaming at me about what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, with regard to running 8 to 10 miles a day and throwing baseballs and doing all those things. And I was sitting there trying to figure out what in the world I had done to myself when I couldn't even play basketball with my kids for 5 minutes without being completely out of breath. So it started me on a journey of trying to figure out, how do I get back to the shape that I was in college, or the shape that I thought I was in college. I was what you would lovingly refer to as a tofu. That's thin on the outside, but fat on the inside, and we're working my way worse. So it took a 6.5-year period because I tried every pill, potion, lotion, fad, everything you can imagine, trying to figure out what was right for me. And realized very quickly that I had focused for the longest time on the wrong thing. See, I was focused on the 40 inches around my waist, not the 6 inches between my ears. And until I actually changed my habits, I was always going to revert back to what got me there in the first place. Because anybody can do things for short periods of time. So after losing over 100 pounds and keeping it off for a long period of time and you know, being in the law for 20 plus years, a friend of mine asked me to look at what at the time was this concept of customized nutrition. Intrigued me because one of the things I had learned through my own journey and process was that, much like Keith and yourself found out trying to prove that you can eat your way without needing supplements, our food supply in the United States is a bit depleted. A great job of destroying the soil through genetic modification, destroying the nutrient values of things. It's still amazing to me that most of the nutrient values that you have in a lot of these algorithms and things people rely on are 40, 50 years old. I mean, they are not been updated. When people say, hey, you know, I'm getting, you know, 100 milligrams of vitamin C from this orange, you're lucky if you're getting 15. I mean, it's really, you know, you have to understand where your information is coming from. And then when you start seeing that the government was telling us, hey, we needed so much vitamin D for so long, in reality, we only missed it by about 800% on what we actually need. And then it depends upon the time of day and the time of year and how much exposure. And then, oh yeah, you throw in genetics and you're trying to figure out, well, does your body even metabolize the vitamin D that it gets from the sun? And if so, how much? It really kind of opened the world to my eyes of jumping from the law and starting out in this wonderful thing that we call IDLife. The whole concept behind what we were going to do in IDLife, though, was simple. We were going to start with science and build products from there. See, most companies, they start with a product, then they take it to the marketing team about what they want to say about that product, and then they try to go find science that fits into the marketing's concept of what this thing is going to do. At IDLife, we start with science, solidly in the science. The science tells us what to do, and then we build from there. And one of the terms that we use all the time is we have what's called purposeful product development. What that means is we're never going to have a Me Too product. We're not going to have a, you know, hey, this is working for somebody else. Why don't we have one of those? We're going to identify a problem. We're going to find the solution to the problem. And then we're going to take as much time as we can to develop a product that fits the problem. I always use the prime example of the heartbeat item of our company is our kids nutrition vitamin. I mean, why would a company our size and, you know, and what we're doing in the space that we're in do a kids vitamin? The simple answer was this: the number one kids vitamin on the planet is a cartoon character, bare feet, in a stone car that has very little nutritional value, but moms are buying it every day for their children thinking that they're doing something good. We wanted to do something better, and we spent 18 months developing the only one out there that has the 18 essential vitamins, the 6 cofactors, methylfolate, methylcobalamin, which you understand the genetic aspects of that, why you need those 2 ingredients, especially in developing children. And doing that at a price that is half the price of anyone else on the market of what they're selling similar items for. That just kind of gives you an idea of what IDLife is and what it's about, but most importantly, why I jumped from what I was to what I do now. And it's really a differentiation of, you know, what I was doing in the law versus doing something I'm extremely passionate about. As I always say, they offered to pay me a third of what I was making and work me twice as hard, but they lied. I worked 3 times as hard.
Well, and so this is the thing is, when we go through all of this stuff, can you kind of also speak to the core values of IDLife? And because a lot of that, we have this very similar, we call them the 7 pillars of health at PaleoFX. Can you talk a little bit about that as well? Sure.
You know, I mean, the first pillar that everything else is built upon at IDLife is people first. Okay. And what we mean by that, and you know, we have our core values, and they're very important. We have them on our website. I mean, everyone can go take a look at this thing, but people first defines who IDLife is and what it's about. And what that means is we're always going to do what's right by the person, always and forever. That's just who we are. So much so that most of our products are 15-day supply, but we give a 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. In other words, use all of it. And if it didn't work for you, if you didn't like it, or you didn't get any benefit out of it, hey, we'll give you your money back, no questions asked. It's the idea behind making sure that everything that goes out of our facility is exactly what it's supposed to be. You know, that sounds like a unique concept. It sounds like something you should do every single time. But in IDLife, we take it serious, so much so that our quality control program is is not only do we test raw material for efficacy, purity, quality, ingredient. Okay, we're going to make sure the raw material is exactly what it's supposed to be. Then it's going to be manufactured in FDA certified labs that follow a pharmaceutical grade cGMP process. Okay, so in other words, we're not going to use just a basic process. We're going to use a pharmaceutical grade CMG process. That means single vat manufacturing. When the product gets to the end, guess what? It's going to be put into quarantine to be tested a second time. People don't mean to make mistakes. And yes, machines do most of the work, but guess what? As long as a person is involved in the process, mistakes can happen. We want to test it a second time. When it arrives at the IDLife dock, because everything is shipped from our IDLife offices in Frisco, Texas, there is no 3PL process here. Guess what? We randomly test those products a third time just to make sure. And then we lost our minds and decided, you know what? We want to make sure all our athletes out there are protected. So we're going to send all of our lifestyle products out for, informed choice sports certification. So it's tested a fourth time. So it literally is that kind of commitment to people first, making sure people are getting what they paid for. Most importantly, making sure that what's on the label is in the product, and there's nothing that's in the product that's not on the label. Again, it seems like a novel concept, but when you do things like that, pay attention to the detail, being able to trace back any product to source. I mean, we can literally tell you every person that's touched your product from the raw material all the way to the last warehouse man or woman that actually touched your product to send it to you. That attention to detail gives you an understanding on which the values of which IDLife is built.
And Mark, we all know too that quality is one thing. Another thing is the ability of the body to absorb whatever you put in. And we were very, very impressed too with the commitment to that, and the commitment to finding high quality ingredients and packaging them in such a way that they can actually be absorbed in the body.
Correct. So let's talk about absorbability, because there are a lot of what I would call false marketing on absorbability out there. In other words, you have companies out there saying, you know what, this is guaranteed to be absorbed in your body in 15 minutes. Well, how do they know that? Because guess what, Michelle, you're different than me, which is different than Keith, which is different than, our ability to absorb nutrients is individual. It truly is unique, and how our body reacts to nutrients is individual. In fact, one of the elements that IDLife recently went into back in March of last year was DNA. And we've learned a lot about absorption and metabolization and things of that nature when it comes to nutrients. But the idea behind what we did was we manufactured it a way where we maximize the absorbability in the body. That is a key component of what we do. So we're going to give your body the best ability it can to absorb the nutrient. Does that mean guarantee that your body's going to absorb this? No company can claim that. Right. And if they do, you really should be questioning the company that you're dealing with. Because there is no, I can run in a lab a test and say, yep, that absorbs in that lab environment, in that scenario, in 3.5 minutes. Great. So what they're going to do is say, hey, guaranteed to absorb in 3.5 minutes. But you haven't put it into that person's body.
Right.
So within those testing facilities, this is the kind of stuff that IDLife is basically saying, look, we're not going to go down these marketing gimmicks. We're not going to play this game. What we're going to do is identify the game, and then we're going to give you real information. So a lot of times people are a little taken aback because they'll ask us questions. We have a customer advocate team that is unmatched. People call and ask about ingredients. We actually answer questions about ingredients, about the source of the ingredient. It's vitamin C. Okay, what kind of vitamin C? Okay, where's that vitamin C source from? We actually answer these types of questions. Okay, and the reason why is because there are certain people that want to know the answer to those things because they come from a different level of understanding. I will tell you that the people that I get from PaleoFX and the people that are there and part of your tribe, as you say, they have a tendency to ask a little bit more of the detailed questions, which is perfectly fine, because you know what? That's the kind of thing that makes us shine.
Yeah.
Because when we actually show people that not only are we willing to engage, but we're willing to educate in the process, and we're able to identify where limitations exist, like absorbability. Somebody will say, hey, can you guarantee? Nobody can.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody can. It's kind of like, are your supplements pharmaceutical grade? Well, there really isn't such a thing as a pharmaceutical grade fish oil from the last time I checked. Fish are pretty much free swimmers. Right. You have, your free caught, are they out there, or did you do them in a lab? Did you do them in a farm? Whatever the case may be. But for the most part, there's a lot of companies out there claiming pharmaceutical grade supplements. Then I've seen the new one is plant-based supplements. Well, okay, I got asked the question the other day, are all your supplements plant-based? I was like, well, no. And they're like, well, how's that so? I said, well, because we use minerals too. Minerals are rocks, they're not plants. Are all your supplements organic? Well, a rock is inorganic by nature. So no, I can't say it's all organic either. So, and it's funny when I answer the question that way, how many people are taken aback because they're asking a question that they don't really understand the foundation of it. And all they've gotten is a piece of an understanding. And what we do is educate them on the full question that they should be asking. It's kind of like when somebody says, hey, are all your raw materials sourced from the US? I always answer that the same way. We're a non-GMO company. And if they don't understand my answer, that means they didn't understand the question, which means when 98% of our raw material or our plant-based items that we have in the United States are genetically modified, if we're a non-GMO company, what does that mean? Probably not. Okay. Yeah. We have to source them from the cleanest parts of the world, which means, I would love to source everything from the US, but we just haven't done a good job here in protecting our food supply, as you guys know better than anybody. So that's kind of the way that I would address that.
And I love that about you guys, about the way you answer questions and IDLife as a whole, because they do not fall into parroting marketing schemes, right? And when people ask these questions, they're used to hearing that answer parroted by other companies, and they expect that from you, and that gives them that sense of security, I guess, that they're looking for. And then they're taken aback when you're like, oh, wait, and it changes their paradigm. Mm-hmm. Then it makes them rethink like you said, rethink the question a little bit.
Right. Well, the other thing is, we have a commitment to all of our customers, to all of our associates, to anyone that does business with IDLife. And the same commitment it's another part of our core value, which is this. If you find an ingredient that is better than an ingredient that we're currently using, tell us about it. We'll do the research. We'll take it to our SciMed board. And if it is in fact better, guess what? We'll change. Yeah. We're not so proud to say, hey, ours is, absolutely without question, 100% perfect every single time. Because let's be real, nutritional science as a whole is evolving constantly. And we're learning more and more and more all the time. I mean, look at, vitamin D. I mean, how many years were doctors basically talking to people about vitamin D? But what they were doing is they were giving them those, 50,000 IUs of vitamin D2.
Yeah.
Well, D2 is basically, we all know what that is. I mean, you need vitamin D3. Or how about B12 shots? This is one of my favorites. You got 23% of the population that genetically cannot metabolize cyanocobalamin. Okay. So in other words, the cyanide delivery component of the B12 vitamin, most people don't realize that too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. But you can't metabolize the B12. So what do? We're going to shoot it into you intravenously. Well, guess what? If you can't metabolize it, you can't metabolize it. So you just intravenously got a whole big old dose of cyanide. Not necessarily the best way to handle that B12. Give them actually the methylcobalamin, where you have 100% of the people that can uptake it. And guess what? Now, all of a sudden, you're giving that person a benefit and they don't have to get the shot. It's small things like that make IDLife different. And the way that we answer questions is not to be challenging. It's to basically educationally talk to people. But most importantly, we're not afraid to be challenged by anybody. And we're not afraid to admit that we're wrong if we're wrong on something.
So we have a question. My daughter gets asked by friends, isn't a multivitamin okay? What's different about your customized vitamins?
Here's what I would say. Have you ever taken a pharmaceutical? Most people would say, yes, we've all taken a drug. Okay. Why don't you just take a multiceutical? You ever heard of one before? They don't exist. Okay. One size does not fit all for pharmaceuticals. How in the world can it work for nutraceuticals? Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. It really doesn't. I mean, as somebody who took, another company's product for years and years, I mean, I took Animal Pack forever. I mean, I just did. I'm telling you, that's what I used to use. And I can't tell you the bricks that I was probably getting through my body and passing and not getting absorbed on anything, thinking that I was doing everything the way that I was supposed to. But then when I actually learned what customized nutrition, learned that when I looked at what I was taking versus what the science told me I needed, I was taking a bunch of things I didn't need. Most importantly, I was potentially taking some things that are harmful to me. See, through our assessment, it takes 5 to 7 minutes to take the assessment. It's totally free. You have people that are smokers or subject to secondhand smoke that may grab a multivitamin, okay? thinking, hey, everything's great and fine in the world. The problem is it has more than 20 milligrams of beta carotene. Well, that's pretty important for a smoker, somebody who's subject to secondhand smoke, because if you're consuming more than 20 milligrams of beta carotene, Stanford did a study to determine that you just increased your chances of contracting lung cancer by 60%. So, I mean, you're doing something that you think is positive to address a situation that you're trying to change in your life. In reality, you're making the situation worse. Multivitamins are not going to work for you. They're just not. You know, they do not address the problem. And the most importantly, they don't take you into consideration. What I mean by that is, you know, through our assessment, one of the greatest things that we do is we keep you from taking something that could otherwise be harmful to you. You know, there's a lot of people out there. The average man over the age of 50 is taking more than 4 pharmaceuticals a day. Okay. Did you know that there's certain pharmaceuticals that contraindicate with supplements? Most importantly, did you know that pharmaceuticals are both supplement dependent, or in other words, nutrient dependent and nutrient depleting? They're and/or. Okay. They could be both. You know, you take a statin drug, you better be supplementing with Q10, or though you might stop the heart attack if you believe the science, or don't read the French study and you can question that one. But you very well, if you look at the health warning from Canada, you very well may cause the heart failure because your body needs CoQ10, and that statin stopping the body's natural production. So multivitamins, not okay, in my opinion. And there's a lot of reasons why. In fact, the New York Times did a study that said multivitamins are basically junk. You shouldn't use them. And we got asked that question. Well, you know, if multivitamin, you know, if vitamins are junk, you know, why should we use them? I said, the study was about multivitamins. It wasn't about targeted vitamins designed just for the individual based upon their individual needs that have a Y button next to every single one of them that has independent third-party verifiable science that you can cut, copy, paste into Google and go read yourself why somebody in your situation with your condition needs this vitamin in this amount. And that's what IDLife does for people.
And I think another thing too, Mark, is the fact that these supplements are priced for the common person, right? You would think that all of this would package up and be for the elite 1%, right? But they're not. And in fact, when you go through the assessment, free assessment, and then get everything that the assessment recommends that you can print off and then go to wherever and try to duplicate that, give it a shot and see if you can duplicate it for a fraction of the cost of what it's actually being offered through IDLife.
Absolutely. So, you know, the best part about what we wanted to do was not only deliver the highest quality vitamins we could manufacture. Okay. And I'm saying that we could manufacture doesn't mean that you can't do it better in the future, because right now we're making it as the highest quality as you can. We're always trying to improve the manufacturing process. But at the end of the day, what we wanted to do is do that and deliver it at an affordable price. I mean, our average cost for the full customization program is right around $100, which if you're looking at high-end vitamins, guess what? I mean, this one, there's 150, 200. I mean, they're elite, but here's the thing. If $100 is outside your price range, you can customize it to you. You can take it down to just a single thing if you want to. In fact, we have something called the Essentials Pack, which is basically the advanced AM, the advanced PM, your probiotic, and your omega for under $45 a month. That's a 30-day supply. Yeah. But guess what? That right there is the price of what most people are paying for a multivitamin. And that includes your probiotic and your omega. A probiotic, 11 billion strands to your gut. And we could talk about gut health all day long, especially in y'all's environment. I mean, everyone's understanding gut health now.
Right. And especially because that's really where your immunity starts. And of course, considering the situation that we're currently in worldwide with COVID-19, obviously lots of people are really concerned about their immunity and concerned about their health, and are now, which I find this is kind of a blessing and a curse right now. People are finally kind of waking up and understanding how important their health is. And so now they're seeking information about immunity and about getting themselves healthy. Can you speak a little bit to some of the offerings that we have to be able to boost and explain why we particularly our position at IDLife around the fact that we don't cure anything, we don't do anything, but how our nutrients work for somebody.
Sure. So first, if you see anybody out there that says, our vitamins boost your immune system, guess what? Nothing to boost your immune system. Okay. So let's get that out of there. It doesn't exist. Okay. Our products don't cure, prevent, treat, diagnose anything. Okay. So let's make sure everyone understands that. Your immune system is what it is. Okay. In other words, your immune system didn't develop based upon what you did yesterday. Your immune system is where it is today based upon the small decisions you've made over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, for years, I've stood on stage and asked people, what's the most valuable asset you owned? And people will identify, the house, the car, the 401k, or whatever. And I said, no, it's your health. Lose your health and see how many of those things you still own. Mm-hmm. The bank owns most of them, or they're about to. And that was what I said for years. And now we run into the current situation that we're in. And guess what? People are understanding, oh, wow, financially, I'm a disaster because the most important thing for me right now is my health. Okay. And what can I do for my health? Well, IDLife had a product. We called it the Immune Support Pack. Okay. What is the Immune Support Pack? It's designed to basically help your body's immune system, support your body's immune system by feeding it certain nutrients. Okay. Now, what's interesting is when we launched this out, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a very slow mover. I mean, it was one of those things that, hey, it's there. For the most part, ID Nutrition is the customized platform. The Immune Pack was just the easy button, if you will. But a lot of people didn't really pay attention to it. Well, come along this pandemic, and all of a sudden, everybody got interested in it because why? This Immune Pack that had existed for years and years and years, all of a sudden you started having the former head of the CDC, you had Dr. Oz, you had all these other, medical pundits jumping on and saying, hey, if you could just increase your intake of zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D, you could really help support your immune system. Well, guess what? That's not only in there. I mean, we also have Antioxidant Plus and the immune enhancement component in there that basically gives you all of those parts. So what's the enhancing component of the immune system? All it is feeding your immune system whatever it is, whatever it has, whatever it can do. So what's that doing? It's basically priming your immune system. That's it. Now, the reason you want vitamin C and zinc in there is because that's basically supporting the bacterial component of your immune system. Okay, that's the bacterial component. D is your viral portion of your immune system. So there's a lot of people out there that are going through this issue right now, and they're mega dosing on C, maybe a little bit of zinc if they heard the story. They're missing out on D. And D is the viral component of the immune system. It is the most critical element of what people are trying to do right now. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to basically highlight the fact that, hey, guys, this exists. A lot of people are finding it. But typical to IDLife, remember what I said, core pillar number 1, people first. What did we do with a product that had been around for years and years and years? We put a BOGO on it. Mm-hmm. Buy one, get one. Now, why did we do buy one, get one? And really, it's not buy one, get one. Our BOGO says buy one, give one. It's the heartbeat of who we are as a company. We have all of these great ingredients, making it. All right, so let me back up. Companies during this pandemic are going to be defined for the rest of their existence based upon how they handle this. Okay. Were they trying to take advantage of it? Were they trying to profiteer from it? Or were they going to actually be a leading, helping hand? And as I always say, it's never a handout, it's a hand up. Help, we don't want to just give it. So the idea behind this was do something for yourself, but most importantly, do something for others. Give the second one away for free. So guess what? Price stayed the same. It's, retail $49.99. But now it has a buy one, give one component to it. So guess what? You buy one, you give one. You get a second one for no additional cost. And that's just kind of what we've been doing at IDLife. We had a VIP customer program that got people access to discounts on all of our products that normally cost people $19.95 a year. Well, guess what? We made it free for all first responders and frontline medical personnel. Why? Because these people don't have the option of working from home. These people are not only on the front line, I mean, they are literally exposing themselves every single day to something that has killed almost 200,000 people in this country.
And they're under high stress.
Yes. Well, let's think about that. What are we doing to our medical personnel right now? Okay. Extreme stress. Okay. I'm going to talk to the Paleo FX people now for a second because you guys understand where I'm immune system and what I'm about to do. Extreme stress, long working hours, inhibited sleep, Probably not the greatest nutritional diet, because if you've ever eaten in a hospital before, you know what they have access to. I mean, what are all these things contributing to? We are literally depleting the immunity systems of the people we're relying on to help us through all of this. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what's happening. Right. So why can't we do something on our side to basically try to support where we can these folks, which is why we did what we did.
Right. Fantastic. And the compliance behind these products is, so the best laid plan not followed is a bad plan, mm-hmm. right? Compliance is huge, and the way these are packaged makes it super easy. Super easy.
Yeah. So if you walked into any vitamin store right now and say that you took our assessment, okay, free assessment, like I said, 5 to 7 minutes, you get the answer. When you get to the end, you get 2 things for free in addition to just taking the assessment. Okay. One is a health score. Don't worry. No one likes their first health score. You don't need to go back and change the questions. Answer the questions honestly. It's HIPAA compliant. Okay. Which means we treat it as a medical record. It's your information. No one is ever going to see it. So health score number 1. All right. Second thing, you're going to get a free health report. That's 6 to 16 pages of information just about you. Most importantly, your diet and lifestyle choices that you're making on a daily basis that are either helping or hurting your overall health. That is free. Best part is the ethics and integrity and morality of what that report is nowhere in there does it recommend an IDLife product. What it literally says is, look, hey, you have hypertension, but you eat processed meats. Did you know there's a direct correlation between the two? And by simply eliminating or reducing, you can naturally improve your hypertensive state. Small changes. Again, focusing on the 6 inches between your ears, not the 40 inches around your waist. If I tell you got to go from 3,000 calories a day to 500, you might be able to do that for about 6 weeks, but bounce back and probably go 4,000 when you get back. I mean, it's, we're going to give people a small things they can do, but then we're going to take it one step further. Earlier, you talked about absorbability. Okay. And you talked about packaging. Well, we deliver in what's called chronobiology. So in other words, we deliver certain vitamins in the morning, certain vitamins in the evening. I mean, most people on this presentation right now have taken an omega at one point in their life, most of them in the morning with their multivitamin. The problem is it's processed through the liver best between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. So I tell people all the time, hey, if you like your omega, great, but do me a favor. Stop taking it in the morning. Start taking it in the evening. But most importantly, do this for me. Take half as much as you normally take now, but take it in the evening and let me know how you feel. And the reason why is because when you take it at the wrong time, guess what? You probably have some really expensive urine and your body's not getting the full benefit of it, as opposed to if you take it at the right time, you're getting the full ability of your body to absorb it because you're optimizing when you're going to take it. But most importantly, you're going to get the benefit of what you bought. The packaging component comes in strip packs. So in other words, you don't have 6 bottles, 7 bottles, however many bottles you may have. What you have is strip packs with, your morning and your evening. How many are you going to have? I have no idea. Before we added DNA, there was 2.7 million possible outcomes. 2.7 million possible. Actually, it's more than that, but 2.7 is impressive enough. We added genetics and became an infinite possibilities. So when we say customized, I'm not talking about, we have 3 or 4 options and you're going to fit into one of those. I'm talking about an infinite number of possibilities with regard to what that outcome is going to look like with regard to somebody in your situation and your condition who needs these nutrients.
Yeah. So this is okay. So now that we're going into some of this too around immunity. One of the best components of helping your immune system is obviously reducing your stress, managing your stress, eating better, all of that. But one of the big things that I don't see a lot of people talking about is sleep. And so can you talk a little bit about the IDLife sleep product? Because it is one of my favorite products. I definitely, I'm a big proponent of it. And talk about why the ingredients in it and why the triphasic system that it's in.
Sure. Sleep strips to me are, it's my number one product. I mean, it's the thing other than ID nutrition, it's the thing I love the most.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because of the benefits that it provides. I always tell people when they come in and they want to talk to me about, how to lose weight. I always tell them 2 things they need to do first and foremost. Before they even talk about products, you got to be able to do 2 things for 30 days because that's going to show a commitment. But most importantly, it's going to change the 2 key habits. First thing you have to do is drink 100 ounces of water a day. Second thing you have to do is sleep 8 hours a night. And if you do those 2 things, then we can talk about IDLife products. which is kind of off-putting because a lot of people expect me to try to sell them product, and really I'm not. What I'm trying to say is, look, if you're not willing to change your habits, CDC's already published a study that yo-yo dieting costs you about 3.5 years of life expectancy. So just stay the way you are. I mean, it's just, that's the numbers. But sleep is the critical component, not only your body's immunity system, it's your recovery system, it's your weight management system, it's your hormonal balance system. I mean, everything about us is sleep. Okay. In fact, 1/3 of our lives, if you live to the average 75, years on earth, 25 years is going to be spent asleep. Right? I mean, if you think about that for a second, why wouldn't you want high quality sleep? I mean, Sleep Number has these mattresses that give you a sleep score. If you've seen this stuff, the average sleep score in America is like a 71. People don't sleep well. Now, why is lots of different reasons. Our sleep strip, though, is designed to do something very unique. It has 1.5 milligrams of melatonin. Why 1.5? You can't even find 1.5 in any store anywhere. Everything starts at 3, then 5, then 10, and then you get the stupid doses. Here's the thing. Anything over 3 milligrams, your body's natural production of melatonin starts to shut down. Okay, so it becomes addictive. Now, why is that important? If my body's natural production of melatonin starts to shut down, then that means I am going to be reliant on that product to fall asleep for the rest of life. Or I can wait till it will restart when I stop taking the product, which is a 2 to 3 week window for your body to kick back on, which means you got to go through insomnia for like 2 to 3 weeks to get off. That's why people, when they start these sleep aids, over the counter prescriptions, etc., they stuck on them for a lifetime. So we wanted 1.5 because it's less than the addictive number. And guess what? You can take them repetitively or you can not take them. Your body starts to actually help it fall asleep. And 1.5 milligrams of melatonin is not going to make you wake up punch drunk or feel like, you can't wake up. If you need to get up, you can't. It's just enough to help you edge off to sleep. Second thing has L-theanine and 5-HTP. So those are the other two ingredients, L-theanine, 5-HTP. So what are those doing? Well, any of you out there wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and the brain kicks on and all of a sudden, that's what I'm thinking about. I can't go back to sleep because I have that overactive brain. Well, it's going to actually help you mellow out. But most importantly, it's going to help put you into a deep restorative sleep. So I tell people, everyone has their own, wearable that they like, whichever one you like. IDLife has relationships with Garmin. I'm an Apple guy. Sorry. Yes, I get discounts on Garmin. I still wear my Apple Watch. It's a communication device. It's everything to me. But what's interesting about the wearables, I always tell people, take the test. In other words, give me 48 hours. And if you're willing to give me 48 hours, in other words, that's 2 nights of a sleep strip. Wear your wearable, but do me this favor. 2 nights before you start the sleep strips, tell me how much REM sleep you got. Okay, that's your deep restorative sleep. Then the 2 nights on your sleep strips, wear your wearable to bed and let me know how much REM sleep you get. Most people are only averaging 1 REM cycle a night. We'll get into the second or third in order to get into what we call restorative sleep. In other words, your body repairing itself. A lot of athletes and muscle builders and CrossFit athletes and stuff like that, this is where injury comes in because they're only getting into that first REM cycle. And guess what? They're not getting restorative and they're not giving their body an opportunity to repair, which is causing a lot of physiological type issues. I know, Keith, now I'm talking to your world. But when you take the test and you get actually 2nd and most people 3 REM cycles a night, not only are you going to sleep better, but most importantly, people start waking up before the alarm clock and feeling restored. Because most people think 8 hours in the bed means I got a good night's sleep. No, 8 hours in the bed doesn't mean anything. I mean, 8 hours in the bed in level 1 means, guess what? You're going to wake up still feeling tired, groggy. I mean, hell, we had 5,000 people die on U.S. roadways last year driving to work because they fell asleep. So this is after a night's sleep. They're driving to work and they fell asleep on the way to work. People aren't sleeping well. So the whole idea behind this little celluloid strip that basically you put on your tongue or inside of your cheek and it dissolves, swallow, is it's going to help you fall asleep. It's going to give you a restful sleep. And most importantly, it's going to help you get into a restorative sleep. And like I said, I used to fly on planes all of the time. It's funny. American just sent out an email to all of their frequent flyers and said, hey, don't worry. We're extending your frequent flyer privileges through 2021. Please come back and buy something. I'm like, yeah, thanks. No, thanks.
That's pretty good. Go ahead.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So one of the, you did kind of touch on this, But I wanted you to go back a little bit because right now, especially with everything that's going on right now, and we've been hearing about this stuff for quite a while, is you talked about IDLife being HIPAA compliant. And you talked about the DNA component. And of course, we know that there are lots of companies out there, health companies, that you may do a health assessment and what have you, or you may be doing DNA, and those companies sell your information. Can you talk about the policies with IDLife?
Sure. So first and foremost, your information at IDLife is never going to be sold. It's not what it's for. Okay. We may do internal review. We may try to do some algorithm type stuff, trying to figure out, patterns and things like that, but it's non-descriptive. In other words, we don't know it's you if we're going to do that kind of stuff internally. When it comes to DNA though, I think I have personally probably had my genes tested more than any human being on the planet. I think they've now been tested 15 or 16 times. It's crazy how many times they've been tested. And the reason why they've been tested so much is I got a test from the Mayo Clinic. Okay, because I wanted to make sure, hey, look, I went to a place where I trusted the fact that the information I was getting was real. And then when IDLife was looking for a DNA partner, I used that baseline as a way to figure out if everyone else was giving me the right results. So that was kind of the way that I did it. We spent 3.5 years trying to find a partner. And the reason why we spent 3.5 years is because though there were some great companies out there, most of their reports were junk science. Okay, and you need to understand this. Just because you have a genetic marker, that report that's talking about that genetic marker, if you can imagine, genetics is, imagine a child's lifespan, okay? Child grows up, he's with mom, then he goes to preschool, then from preschool to kindergarten into grade school, middle school, high school. Our understanding of genetic science is still in the mom's learning cycle. We're still in the first couple of years of development here. We're not even into preschool yet. Mm-hmm. And these reports, when written, are based upon the best information we have available. But guess what? It's a limited subset of information for the most part. Okay. Which means you have to be very careful in what you report and tell people to do with their genetic markers, because if you don't, then guess what? You're not being responsible. Again, finding a company that was not willing to jump off the deep end and go on a belief system as opposed to recommended basic science, that was hard. Because there was a lot of companies out there that were saying, hey, you have this genetic marker, which means all of these things. Maybe, maybe not. So first and foremost, had to find a company that was responsible in the report. Second, and you would think this would be easy, finding a genetics company that was willing to not sell your genetic information. Whoa, that took a long time. And the reason why is this. Most genetic companies, 23andMe, Ancestry, all those guys, the DNA, they're actually losing money every time they do one of those for you. The big play is selling all that information to the pharmaceutical companies, right, and to the insurance companies and to all the other places where the data can be sold so that they can develop something called precision medicine. You can Google that up, figure out what that is. In our lifetime, every child in America will be born with a genetic test. In other words, we're going to gene test a person right when they're born. And that genetic test will then determine your medical diagnosis and treatment protocols for the rest of your life. So you'll walk in with a bacterial infection and you're not going to get amoxicillin. No, you're going to get a pathway 6, antibiotic designed just for you based upon your genetic profile. That's in our lifetime, or at least in my kids' lifetime. That's not too far away. But all of that information is being based upon all this genetic testing that they're basically giving away so that they can learn more and more and more and more about it. We had to find a partner that wasn't willing to sell that information because that was key and critical to us. That took a long time. But then we had to find a partner that was willing to actually have a written contract with every individual that did the DNA test to basically hold them accountable. So when you get our DNA box and you sign your authorization form, if you actually read it rather than just sign it, as a lawyer, please read things before you sign them. It actually says in there, it's the commitment that your data belongs to you. Your information belongs to you. And Molecular Labs is who we partnered with in Washington State. Genetics is about 10% of what they do. They do lab testing for a lot of the major hospitals and have multiple government contracts. But the main thing was you have a contract with Molecular between you and Molecular that they're not going to sell your data. It's right there in the document if you read it. Now, why is that important? Because here's the thing. IDLife is not a DNA company. Okay, we're a DNA reseller, if you will. We coupled Molecular's DNA test, and they're CAP and CLIA certified, which means they're certified to do this testing in every state in the United States, including New York. New York has its own certification body for DNA testing. Most people don't even know that. But when you go through their process, you have a direct relationship with them, and the contract says we're not going to sell your data. In fact, IDLife, we don't even get your raw data. We don't have access to it. Okay, because again, we follow a HIPAA compliance protocol. HIPAA means this: it's treated just like a medical record. You would have to have authorized molecular to share the data that you have with us in order for us to get access to it. Okay, there's that wall between us. So while we distribute, we facilitate, we work with Molecular to get you your test results and work on that. And we have in our assessment the ability for you to upload 7 markers in there if you choose to into your assessment to further customize your ID nutrition order. You don't have to. And that's why it's not automatically uploaded. And we get that question all the time. Well, I did the test. Why isn't it automatically uploaded into my assessment? Well, because guess what? We follow a HIPAA protocol. You have not authorized that to happen. And we don't want you to authorize that to happen because we don't want to have an open portal between us and Molecular, because that breaks down or increases the chances of vulnerability. And neither one of us want it. So as a result, you are the facilitator of the information back to us.
Yeah, I just so appreciate IDLife's commitment to people first, but also the commitment to the highest quality, to the best science that you have available to you, and in really doing purposeful product development. It's one of the key reasons why Keith and I chose to be part of IDLife. And the thing is that I can tell you, being the owners of PaleoFX, we were approached with every conceivable type of supplement, protein, you name it. The thing is, there's some really great companies out there, but there was never anyone that was so aligned with what we believed in as IDLife. And the thing is that when we saw particularly how, and I want to have you kind of speak to this a little bit because we've kind of cursory gone around it, but I really want to get focused on this, is that the assessment is all driven by science. And that was the most impressive thing for me and Keith, was that is everything we believe in the paleo movement is, okay, trust, but verify and verify and verify. And it's, this is the thing, anyone in paleo will tell you, you can tell me to do something, but the first thing I'm going to ask you is, where's the science to back that up? And then I'm going to look at the science and I'm going to question it, and I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to probably make a decision, or I'm going to test the theory. And the theory may or it may not work for me. But talk about a little bit about the science that is in the assessment and how it works in the algorithms.
Sure. And you mentioned something that I want to make sure people understand. IDLife is not the company that's going to go out there and tell you, hey, look, we're better than everybody else. We're just not going to do that. Okay. There's a lot of really good companies out there. There's a lot of really good companies that come to PaleoFX every single year. In fact, there's a lot of companies that I've tried and or used the products, because they're making something that we don't make. And the reason why we don't make it is because there's no purpose for us to make it. In other words, they're doing a great job at it. You would be amazed at what we're approached at doing all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, that would just be a me too, because this company is already doing it, and they're doing it well. Unless there's a reason for us to do something in that area, why would we want to do that? And a lot of that has to do with the scientific verification that you're talking about. If the science is solid in another company and they're doing it really, really well, I'll just point people in that direction. Okay? Because the way IDLife started was ID nutrition specifically. I always ask you to ask the question, why is IDLife's blank better than, and then you fill in the blank? That's the question we get all the time. Compare and contrast. And I always answer it the same way. Let me tell you how ID nutrition was developed, and then you can make your own decision as to why IDLife. First, it didn't start out with a product. It didn't start out with a series of vitamins that we wanted to make. It didn't start out with any of those things, or even a marketing concept of what it was going to be. You had a group of doctors and scientists that did research for years, reviewing hundreds of thousands of independent third-party peer-reviewed studies, all of which you can find on PubMed.gov and other, available resources. to find a little over 10,000 independent studies that were what they would call verifiable, quantifiable, and reliable. Okay. And they weren't studies done on, hey, does this product do X? No, it's what benefits, if any, does this nutrient provide the human body given the following scenarios? There's a big difference between those studies. There's a lot of companies out there that tout the study they had done on their, fill in the blank. I always laugh at those because I said, well, show me the 7 studies that showed the contrary result, not the one you published to support what you're trying to say. Okay. What we wanted was we didn't want a study or science to support our thing. We wanted to start with science that supported the concept of a nutrient benefiting the human body in some way. So we did that, found over 10,000 of them. Then they spent years going and talking to doctors about, okay, doc, what kind of medical history information do you need to know about this individual? What kind of diet and lifestyle information? What kind of disease pathways, pharmacological drug information do you need? What about over-the-counter drugs? What about sleep patterns, stress patterns? All of the information that you would need to understand why the individual walked in the door. Okay, they walked in with heart disease, but guess what? Heart disease isn't the reason why they walked in the door. Hand-to-mouth disease is the reason why they walked in the door. Their hand finding the mouth way too often with the wrong thing. Heart disease was the culmination of that. So medical science was designed to basically put a Band-Aid on the situation, not talk curative. We could talk all day about the only thing scientifically proven to reverse heart disease. Okay. It's not a pharmaceutical drug and it's not a surgery. The only thing proven to reverse heart disease is plant-based diet. That's science is all over the place on that. I'm a Texan. Plant-based to me sounds insane, but at the same time, that's where they take people is, hey, plants. But it's the idea of healing the body through food and information. Okay. So that's kind of the concept of what this is. So when they got all that information, then they had to cross-correlate, okay, the medical information. Now let's add in environmental toxin information, because that's a new one for us that we're doing all kinds of things. Then let's add in all of the science that we have over here that we already did the research on, the over 10,000 studies. Now you got to cross-correlate all of those together. Okay? That's the algorithms that you're talking about. There's over 5,500 algorithms that are instantly working as you're answering questions. And guess what? You're answering a question on how tall you are, how much you weigh, how much sleep you get. And you're just thinking, oh, I'm running these off. But in the background, that sleep question ties to 127 other data points. Okay? And if you answered certain ways to sleep, guess what? It turns things on, turns things off. It's basically moving to get down to what is your final result is. Then once you get all the way through that, what you end up with is a subset of 39 possible nutrients, okay, in different dosing, delivered in different times. So like, for instance, if a lady says that she's on a thyroid medication, guess what? Even though she may still need certain nutrients, she's not going to get them in the morning, which is the best time for her to take them based upon chronobiology. The reason why is because Synthroid contraindicates with certain nutrients if taken in the morning when you take your Synthroid, which is when you're supposed to take it. So guess what? All of those nutrients get pushed to the PM. Even though maximum absorbability in the body is AM, because it's going to contraindicate with the pharmaceutical that you absolutely need, we push it to the PM because having some is better than having none. Okay, so it's that kind of science that is going on within the assessment. And then when you get to your recommendations page, as Keith said, you can take that recommendations page and go to the store and get all of it if you want to. But if you want to, when you get to the recommendations page, there's a little Y button next to it. And that Y button, if you click on each one of the nutrients, it says, this is what it is. These are the answers that you provided and why this is being recommended to you. But most importantly, here's the independent third-party peer-reviewed studies that you can copy, paste into Google and go read for yourself why somebody in your situation with your condition needs this nutrient in this amount. And that's the scientific component. I get to talk to nutritionists, dietitians, physicians all the time. Okay. And it's amazing to me how many times I run into this. Well, I just don't believe in supplements. Okay. Well, tell me which one of these studies you disagree with. And they're like, well, what do you mean? So like when I talk to a dietitian, I always start out the same way. In fact, Keith, I started out the same way that you started out 8 years ago when you're proving that you can eat your way without being nutritionally depleted. I always start out with dietitians the same way. I agree with you that we should be able to eat without having to supplement. I agree with you that we should be able to do that. I've just not found an ability to do that. Right. I haven't found found a food source that allows me to do that. But most importantly, I know this reality. In the ideological world that is, because that is ideological, the realistic world is that 98% of Americans in the next 48 hours, not now, but used to, are going to get a meal in a window, through a window in a bag in their car. And 50% of them are going to eat it in the car. Not a lot of nutrients in there. So guess what? Nutritional depletion really does exist. So I live in the realistic world of supporting people where they are, and ideological trying to take them to where they want to go, as opposed to living in an ideological world, ignoring the reality of what it is we live in. And that's what IDLife stands for. That's what the assessment's for. That's what the results are for. It's to basically identify for you your gaps, and then you choose what you want to do with the information. Completely up to you.
Yeah.
And that algorithm is a living document. It's updated constantly if need be.
Correct. It's living, breathing. It's ever evolving. As I say, it's not an artificial intelligence, but maybe one day it will be. Yeah. We're constantly making it better. But no, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of articles that are being reviewed and published every single month. And we have PhD scientists that are it's not a job I would want, but they're combing through these things every month, looking for something that's relevant, constantly updating things. I mean, we had 17 major pharmaceutical drugs in the first quarter of this year come off patent. Okay. Now, what does that mean? For most people, they're like, well, what relevance does that have to do with our conversation? You know how many generic drugs for those 17 majors hit the market? And guess what? Our assessment takes into consideration pharmaceutical and generic drugs. So what do we have to do? We have to go in and update the entire assessment to include all these brand new generics, thousands of them, because all of these companies were ready to throw in their generic on top of these things. It's a constant moving target to make sure that we have the most relevant, up-to-date data possible.
Yeah, and it's insane because I know when we first started IDLife, the number just keeps increasing and increasing, and that the number of studies that are included in this and that drive the algorithms, and it's so impressive just to know that there is an entire team that works on this every single month, every single day, to make sure that we stay up to date on the science and that it is changed the minute something changes, and we know that science exists that has changed something. This is one of the things that Keith and I so believe in, and our theme this last year at PaleoFX was challenge authority, defy dogma, and demand different. And I honestly believe that's exactly what we're doing at IDLife. We're always constantly challenging the authority that's there. We're always defying our own dogma. We don't just believe that whatever we have right this minute is good for forever, and we don't ever need to change, and we don't ever need to improve. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that IDLife, and particularly the corporate team and executive team, take this so seriously, because so many people's lives and health are at stake when they actually put their faith and their trust in our products. They really, that puts that in our hands, and I'm so appreciative of how you guys handle all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And too. Yeah. I mean, we always say your best investment is in this, here and here. And to be able to lead someone to a company who believes that too, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Well, we always say the most powerful question that a human can ask is why.
Right.
Why? And because we've always done it that way is never the right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the answer everyone wants to fall back to. Because if you're not willing to answer the question why, okay, and realize IDLife is all about why. I mean, hell, we have a why button next to everything. I mean, it is the most powerful question out there. Mm-hmm. And I always ask people, if you're doing something currently right now, I always ask people the same question: why? Why are you doing it? Most importantly, if you take our assessment, okay, and you have a supplement that you're currently taking and it's not on that recommended list, why are you taking it? Mm-hmm. Now, there may be a reason. Your doctor told you to, or you have this belief system based upon a book that you read. Okay, great. But I can tell you this: never put something in your body unless you understand why it's going in your body. Okay. Mm-hmm. And understand the sourcing of it, because the reality is, at the end of the day, all of us are making informed decisions on what's best for us. When I talk about IDLife products, and we have a lot of people out there that, want to share and sell our IDLife products, which is great. Unfortunately, sometimes they can be very aggressive in their way of, hey, ours is much better. And I'm like, look, when people make the decision to consume something, they're making a personal choice that this is good for me. And when you tell people, hey, mine is better than yours, you basically just told them that their baby is ugly, so better be ready for a fight, okay? Reality is we need to empower people with the understanding of, look, IDLife is never going to say we're better than you because, this is the greatest thing ever. What we're going to say is everything that we do is based upon a scientific reason, a why, if you will, okay? Is what you're currently doing based upon the same why? If it is, great. You probably are taking an amazing product from an amazing company, and that's great. But I always want to empower people, hey, try ours, try yours, and you give me feedback on what you think about what we're doing. And the reason why I want feedback from you is because you already have a firm belief system in what you're currently doing based upon the information that you have. And when you give me feedback, which is the most powerful tool that we have at IDLife and any company has, a difficult thing for a company to appreciate is negative feedback is sometimes the best feedback you can get, okay? Feedback is the fuel on which it makes us better. Because guess what? There's companies out there that are doing some amazing things with products that, I'm learning from every single day. I'm not, like I said, we're not afraid to say we're wrong. We're not afraid to say we need to change. In fact, we've got the commitment that we will change. But the most powerful question you can always ask yourself, consistent with your theme last year, is why? Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this? Why do we believe this? What's the basis of this? And if you understand your why, then, hey, great. You should be headed in the right direction.
Thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate it. I know you're really super busy and particularly very busy during quarantine, which is really, I find funny that we're all so super busy right now. But what you do and how you serve not just the associates at IDLife, but also the customers is super impressive. And we just so appreciate you and your time. And I thank you so much for coming on and explaining all of that.
Yes, and we are proud to be associated with IDLife. Mm-hmm. We really, really are. It's been a great partnership.
Yes, for sure.
Same for us. Again, love your tribe. Keep asking the difficult questions, and glad you asked me to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we be back again this afternoon with Taw Whitty. We're going to be talking about shame and guilt and how that plays a part in your immunity. And please join us this afternoon at 4 o'clock for that. And we look forward to seeing all of you soon. Thank you again, Mark, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mark.
Bye.